So the first thing that you absolutely need to begin your tea, of course, is your own teacup. And I always say that it's so funny in the West, when they advertise tea, they always have the lid off and the steam coming out of the tea. And that's what most people drink tea like that. They'll put in their tea bag and they'll use their tea with an open thing. But here's the thing is that steam actually has your essential oils, and that's where your flavor is, and that's where a lot of your medicinal value is in the steam that you're letting evaporate off. So you always want to have a lid and put the lid on top after you pour the hot water. So as you pour the water, you want to immediately cover that and keep the steam inside the lid. Does that make sense? And then afterwards, they say that after you've let it cool off, then in the surface here is the condensation, is all the essential oil. So this is actually like the little elixir part that you drink first, is it's right here. And so really good teacups will kind of like hold, and especially clays. Like this is a really nice one that I love, is like got the black clay, so it makes it taste really good. And then what you can make with teas, now I don't always use a tea bag, but what we'll talk about is called daily teas, is like tea bags, something that you just might use, a little bit more practical, you use every day. And we sell some really good ones. Of course, the Spring Dragon is our foundation, but you got the blue tea here, it's really cool, makes a beautiful blue tea. Another one that I like is the hibiscus. So, you can buy it in bulk, or you can buy it in this beautiful tea bag. And then holy basil is another one that I like that sometimes I'll make. But again, 99% of the time I'm drinking the tonics, and I'll just pour it in a cup after it's already processed. And I need something to drink. Again, bear with me for being at my home and doing it this way, learning on the fly how to do this. So yes, these are something that you would want for daily teas, drinking daily teas. And again, put it in there as soon as you pour your water. Make sure you're capturing all the essential oils. You don't want the essential oils to evaporate off. Okay. The next thing that you might need in your repertoire is a mortar and pestle. How many people got a mortar and pestle? Thumbs up. Everyone got one of these? No? Good, because they look cool, but they're really unpractical, and you hardly will probably ever use it. So if you see one, like I always used to see these at like TJ Maxx or something. You're like, I want to get that, and then you decide not to. Good, especially if you get a smaller one like this. These are very impractical for most type of herbology, unless you're mixing something really small. The bigger ones, if you really want something to grind, like some herbs, like you want to grind it into a powder for a formula, these are helpful. But I found for the most part, just using your hands, that's how I learned from like a master. It's like, no, just use your hands, and don't use anything if you can. The next utensils you might use are these cool things. They're called and they're kind of like straw filters. And this is called a gold, different types of ones. And this is they make metal ones. They look like little pipes, kind of. People used to always think that they were pipes. But these you kind of use, if you use the raw herb and you put it in an open container, then you would just put this in there, and it's like a filter, so you can filter out the tea leaves if you're using bulk herbs. If you're using bulk, like something like this that I'm going to show you guys, bulk green tea and bulk teas usually are a much better quality, because that's why I say, my saying is, I don't always drink tea, but when I drink Spring. That's the world's greatest man from the what I'm talking about. So this is, usually a better quality, the bulk. So again, this is just something that, if you're into it, you can drink it. These come from drinking yerba mate traditionally, is what the Americana gauchos would drink, and they would fill this with yerba mate. Sometimes fill it with honey and different things of that nature. And so you can drink, you know, it that way if you like. And then they just sell more different types of these. This is more of a fancy one. It's got some breathers in there that you can let go and use that way. So these are fun. Then you've probably seen a traditional tea ball. These are pretty classical. You know, people will just use these, put some of their bulk teas in there, and use this to put in your cup. You still want to follow the steaming rule. And then as we're talking about this metal, this usually leads to where I tell people that in herbology or in the highest level of superior tonics or even cuisine, eating, is to not eat with metal utensils. Because metal utensils change the flavor of your food, and they also change the energetics of your food. So when I learned the superior tonics was to not use any metals. And here's an experiment you can do. You can take a piece of lettuce and you can cut it with a metal knife, and it will brown on the edge. And what that is that a chemical exchange with the metal. If you take a porcelain knife and you cut it, it'll dry out, but it won't turn brown, the same as if you tear it with your hands. So the Chinese believe that if you eat with metal forks and spoons, every bite you're actually flaking off parts per billion of the metal of the steel, and that's making your food very energetically cold. And so then you have to make the energy, the heat, in order to digest it. So I challenge people. I say, you know what? And now we sell them, of course. You can buy them, but you get the bamboo utensils and you eat for a week with only bamboo and wood utensils, and see if you can go back to eating with metal utensils after that. Because you'll taste food on a wood spoon for a while, and it will taste so much better than it does from a metal spoon. Or when you eat with a metal fork, you'll notice it hitting your teeth and stuff is where that wood is really soft and the food just tastes so much different, so much better. Okay, and the other one is, you know, if you want to get around that and you want to still filter your tea, then you can use this, would be my favorite one anymore to use. So that way I can just put my tea in there, put that on there, pour it on there, and then I got the clay and I got the bamboo. So I'm not using any metal, and just kind of like some more green way too, in a way. Okay, and then, you know, I'm really into using diffusers as part of your health regime at your house. And so, you know, I have a little bit of sacred mountain and pine going, and it's a great way to purify your house, you know, and protect your house. And the reason why they're in here also is because you can use some of these essential oils to put in your tonic teas. Now you have to be super careful. You don't even want to put a drop. You want to just like put a little bit on a toothpick and then actually just touch the toothpick in there, or the flavors it'll become too strong. Okay. How we doing? Are we learning about some teas, having fun? Okay, so let's just kind of stop right there for a moment, and let's actually get some of your tea, get your tea cup and whatever ready, because then we're gonna move around to the Gongfu Tea Ceremony side, and then I'll be ready to explain that, and then we'll just start to drink a little tea. And then when we go into the Gongfu Tea, I'll guide us through like a little meditation and explain a little bit about the Gongfu Tea Ceremony. And that way, you know, we can all get something to drink. So take a moment, I'll adjust the camera, and we'll be back really quick. Yay, so just thank you guys for joining me today on our first online tea thing. Maybe we get like a tea group, you know, we just kind of get people from all around the world. You guys are from all different places today across the United States. And this is really cool. And this is adapting and making the best of things and all that kind of good stuff. So cheers to you guys for joining in today and getting your tea stuff. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so our next tea adventure is into the Gongfu Tea Ceremony. And then I'm kind of like showing you guys this, but then we're going to skip over this and we're going to come back to this at the very end and change it up a little bit. So the Gongfu Tea Ceremony is fairly new, and at the same time, the concepts, the way that I learned it from Grandmaster, was to mix in the concept of Taoism. So it's very old too, because it has like these old concepts woven into it, if you know what the old concepts are. And there, you know, people will say, oh, traditional and all this type of things. That's not really true, because there really is no 100% true way to do the Gongfu Tea Ceremony. There is schools that emphasize training it and doing it a certain way. With that being said, there's certain amount of etiquette that you can use, but you can also use it and make it any way you want. They call it tea service. It's actually becoming very popular. Some people go around and they do tea service at events. And there is a way to use the teas, and it can become almost like a science, or it can become a science with the right temperature and the right ingredients. But I would say some of the golden rules are that when you sit down to have the Gongfu Tea Ceremony or the tea service, that you were not allowed to talk about politics or talk about religion or talk about anything that was, you know, too stressful. Usually it was a time for sharing poetry and art, and to, you know, talk about mankind's achievements, you could say. And they started developing these in the late 1800s or 1700s, where as people would travel across these roads, they would make these tea houses, and weary travelers would drop in there to take a little bit of tea and be rejuvenated and, you know, be refreshed and then be along their journey. I always say it's hard for us to imagine in today's time what a cup of caffeine must have felt like back in the day for people. So because we have so many stimulants in our life, you know, not only just foods, but stimulants in general, social media and all kinds of marketing and types of stimulants that we have. But if you can only imagine someone's first cup of green tea, and whoa, and how they felt, and they felt energized, they felt like clear, they could see their future, they would get ideas. And green tea has played a role in all aspects. In fact, it's played a big role in meditation, where the Buddhist monks were able to, after drinking tea, a really good tea has a couple different components. It has caffeine and it has L-theanine. L-theanine is like a relaxing component, and caffeine, we know, is a stimulant. It also has some other components like the ECGC, which are these components for anti-cancer and different things of that nature. But so a really good cup of green tea allows you to have energy, but also for you to stay and remain calm. The better green tea you buy, the better that L-theanine and caffeine are balanced together. So if you buy generic green tea, you're going to get low-end buds that are at the end of the year picking, and it's probably going to have more caffeine and less of the L-theanine. The more expensive green tea that you buy, like one of my favorites I'm going to show you, is the Dragon Well, and it's one of has some of the highest L-theanine content. So you can take a cup of that in the morning, and then you feel really mentally clear. So you don't need like this big stimulant burst of energy. You just feel clear and motivated. So you would share parables, you would share good times, and you would drink these teas. And so when you start with this ceremony, one of the first things that you start with normally is you start with this idea of this visual and smelling. So I would pass this around, and you would smell it. Feel like you're smelling it through the camera. You're smelling this earthy, woodsy, grassy smell. And so it's already beginning the preparation of starting to beautify your mind. And then you're going to start, let's see, I have my water going here. lost power here somewhere. Okay. Well, if not, I will just, oh, there it goes. Okay. So the first thing, I'm not going to go too much into all the details of the Gongfu Tea Ceremony and the tea itself. But one thing is when you're preparing green tea is that you don't want to overheat it. If you do, it brings out the bitterness, it brings out the tannins in the green tea. And once you do that, it's very hard to go back. So normally you want to start with a lower temperature, under 180. And as you pour it over the tea, then that will release certain compounds, and some of the caffeine and some of the L-theanine, but it won't release those tannins right away. So you'll really get a chance to taste the flavor of it. And, you know, again, to emphasize, once you pour too hot of water over there, so maybe you're already preparing your green tea that way and you don't like it. Well, that's because you might be preparing it with too hot a temperature initially. Okay, and then you have your tray. Now, normally this is easier to get to, and so I would be in here and I would have service cups here for whoever my guests are. I have a Gongfu tea table that I do this for people, the ceremonies. And then you're going to have some of these tea utensils. In some cases, you would have a tea pet, and of course it's Golden Dragon for me, but they sell like little horses or frogs and different things like that that people might have. And there's certain ways that you can do it. Sometimes when you pour water over it, they'll change colors and they're fun. You're going to have your own little cup, and again, your cups for your people. You're going to have a viewing tray. Sometimes within those cups, you would have sniffing cups, but I'm going to show you how to do this with your hand. And then you're going to have normally 3 utensils. You're going to have a brewing pot where you're going to brew the tea. You're going to have a filter, and you're going to have a serving pot. So in this case, I will just kind of walk you guys through. I'm going to drink some of this tea. So I'm going to take my green tea. I'm going to put it in there. And brewing time is also important, because if you over brew it, then it also, even at a low temperature, if you over brew it, it will bring out those tannins and you won't really get a chance to truly taste the flavor. So normally, again, every tea has its own specific little key of how high the temperature is, how long it should be steeped. But generally speaking, with the green tea, you wanted, the first one is under a minute. And then the next time I can do like 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. And then as I go along, I can increase the temperature so I can keep brewing one really good quality tea 5, 10 times, or even, 10, 20, 30 times for some people might brew one tea all day long. Okay, and that's usually, again, the better type of tea you get, the Dragon Well, you're paying a little bit more money up front, but the quality and the health benefits that you're getting is better than buying the cheaper tea. So, just like food and everything else, you get what you pay for when you do that. Okay, so then I'm just going to take my thing here. And I'm just going to, now there's a lot of little like esoteric things that, that I learned, like even the 3 pours, man, heaven, earth, going counterclockwise, the first one. And just a little bit. And I just want to let that steep. Now, some people might pour this off immediately because, let's say, to rinse the dirt off, or if you have a tea pit and you're into more the ceremonial side, it might be like kind of, always joke, because I like to be, modern. It's like pouring off, for the dead homies. And so again, you might like do like the man, heaven, earth, and you might just pour off that first batch there over your teapot. Or if you had cups, you would pour it over the cups to warm up the cups and warm up the brewing or the serving pot and warm everything up. So you would pour that actually all over a little bit of everything. Okay, because again, there's a lot of little subtle ways to do this. And then usually, when I do it for people after that, then I usually would pass this around. Let's see if I can transmit it to you. Yeah, it's just like a nature. And so it, becomes really beautiful. It changes to a lime green. You can see some of the steam coming off there a little bit. And again, once you start doing these teas and you feel how they make you feel, even the better teas, you know, to me, it's like a beautiful life. It's fun. I'm gonna be doing this my whole life. Love it. Makes you feel great. Okay, and then so the next one, then the first one I also poured counterclockwise to give you some of the like understanding of the depth. So counterclockwise disperses things. It's how you would purify anything, even water. You should, you know, turn the energy counterclockwise and purify it, and then you can put in your affirmations clockwise. So a lot of this kind of medical qigong information and Taoism and parables. We'll see how much time we have. If I have time to, you know, give you guys one of my favorite parables towards the end. And so the next one would be clockwise. Man, heaven, earth, or teacher, top disciple, and family, or emperor, empress in general. There's a lot of things that can be symbolic with the three treasures or the three pores. Okay, so I'll let that go for a moment. And again, there's different ones. If you want a stronger tea, like after dinner or something to digest, then you can go with like the tea kuan yin. And so they make like, you know, the oolong teas, and, you know, we sell black tea, we sell green tea with jasmine. And so these are usually you use after a meal if you eat a heavy meal, or if you need that initial kick in the morning, you can go with more of a oolong or a black tea if you're used to drinking coffee. And if you buy good quality, I'm telling you, it maybe not have as much caffeine as coffee, but you will feel better, and you will feel better long term than you will by drinking coffee. I know coffee drinkers usually always, you know, they don't like me after I do my classes.
Before JC?
Yeah.
Eliza Meeker wanted to know what the origin of the teapot is.
You know, again, that could be, it doesn't come from the Gongfu Tea Ceremony. The way that I understand it is like, it's like a symbol of your lineage. And so this is like, our lineage is golden dragon. So it's a symbol of like the information. It's like an offering. So as I offer and pour some back over my lineage, it's, you know, like I said jokingly, it's the modern day or the ancient version of, you know, pouring off the alcohol for the dead homie. If that doesn't make sense to you, then it's kind of like I'm just remembering my teacher, his teacher, and not only the teacher, but all the students that asked questions that made the teacher that he became. And so it's like all these people that have just respect to where this information comes from, that you're honoring that. Yeah, it's really cool. So here, this is a dragon egg. I'm gonna put it over my serving pot. Now the reason why to have a serving pot is because then everyone gets served the same tea. If I just started pouring this from this pot, then by the time I got to the end, everyone would have a slightly different tea. So that's the idea. It keeps the tea consistent for all your guests. And then you can take this off too sometimes, and then, yeah, if you could just see this. And then, of course, I'm always going to serve my guest first, and then I would serve, you know, myself, and I would serve each one with the three bows. And sometimes you can just have things, because it's very artistic too. So someone might have some, so I have some of these little, you know, Chinese porcelain things that I might put a flower in. And I have some stones, some jade, and some, you know, black tourmaline. So I have some different stones. Other utensils you might have is like, sometimes they'll have these long sticks. And so these would scoop up the tea. So if I'm sitting behind here like this, I could, you know, put the tea out there for you like that. You would have a brush normally, because you want to brush off the water so you don't get water stains on your nice wood. Sometimes you would have like these things for opening lids, or grabbing also the teacups like this, or grabbing some tea out, the scoop for grabbing the tea out. Some of the stuff for matcha tea, I'm not going to go into too much. I forgot to go over a little bit there, but we can go back if you're interested. And just like a funnel, and then like a poker to poke, you know, if your tea vessels get. So these are some of the basic items that someone might use. And again, it just depends on if we're going through a full tea service, or, you know, I'm just showing you like today. are at home. Now of course there's service for other people, and then there's just the way that I kind of did this for myself. And it might change a little bit, and everything would just be for me. And then I'm going to have some tea, and then I'm going to read, or I'm going to have some tea and meditate or practice Qigong or whatever. Okay, so now I'm going to show you. So let's go back to our tea now again. Now the etiquette and how to drink tea. So we're going to go over the etiquette, or let's go over how to drink tea, and then we'll go over the etiquette. And that way, when we drink the tea, we know how to drink it. Okay, so how to taste tea truly is, again, the tongue has markers on it where it has receptor sites for those 5 flavors that I mentioned earlier. So the idea is that I want to inhale the tea over the tongue and kind of let it go down my throat, and then make this like funny face, like, and let the tea vapors kind of come back up. So it would look like this. And then kind of like I'm tasting the flavor of the tea by aerating up into my nostrils. So I lightly sip it over the tea. Now when doing that, if the tea is good, you slurp it. And if the tea sucks, then you drink it quietly. So normally when we're doing this in the group, we're all sipping our tea really loud. Okay, and the second way to taste your tea is underneath your sublingual pond, we call it in medical Qigong, underneath your tongue, you kind of pour it into that little bowl there. So it doesn't hit the top of your tongue, and then you just, again, make a funnier face. And you let that air up out of that pond. Your tongue's blocking it from going down your throat, and so the vapors just come up through to your nose. So that one would look like. So you can smell it a little bit, and then you swallow it. Okay, so now we know how to do it. First thing with tea is that you always hold it with 2 hands initially. This was a sign of respect, in that if you were having it with someone across the table, that you didn't have a weapon or anything in your hand. Okay, and then we're going to put it in our right hand, and we're going to cover it with our left hand. And you want to see if you can get your palm, because your palm is going to become the sniffing cup afterwards, if you're doing the green tea, if you're following along on that. Okay, and then we would go through the gratitudes and the virtues based on what season it is. So right now we're in the season of spring. So the gratitude is all the little green spriggets coming out of the ground, all the beautiful trees and plants on the planet, all the fruits and vegetables and tonic herbs, all the flowers that we admire. Because when we take a moment of gratitude for these trees, then they all are benevolent. All these plants are benevolent. They give out. So as we take a moment and we can find the gratitude, then we naturally will have the virtues of patience, of an old tree growing, kindness, and benevolence. And then from here, we're going to lift, and we're going to smell our hand, or we're going to smell the tea. And take a beautiful moment. Smile for the gratitude of all the plants and as you drink your tea. Cheers again, my friends. Very good, very good. I love the gratitude of springtime. Every season it changes for something. But I think the springtime one, the last time I taught this, I said something and I realized how true it was. And it was kind of like those, if you ever taught, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you teach yourself, you hear yourself and you're like, oh, that was good. You're like, never knew that before. But the more time we spend in nature, you cannot help but to become a more virtuous person. Like, you can't help it. Like it will naturally happen. And the reason why is because of what I just said. When you go out into nature, why do you think that we like big trees? Because when we look at a big tree, we know that it took a lot of patience and time and effort to grow that tree. It's like a built-in quality. We don't even know why we like big trees, but we do. We like flowers. We like things that, because trees are giving out their oxygen. All the plants, the flowers are giving out their beauty. So all plants in nature are benevolent in nature in general. So the more you go out to nature and you just observe nature, you start to change yourself. And if you could stay out in nature for a whole year, then you would understand the process of nature. You would understand everything in the heart has a spark of life, the insects, the plants, the animals, the earth itself. And so that's a gratitude that you would come. You would have the patience. You would have the trust in the process. You would have like the courage, like a little plant growing on the side of a waterfall or a cliff, some things can't survive, some things do. And so you start to get all these virtues by just being in nature. And I know some of you guys like to go hiking and be out in nature. And so I'm sure that you can attest to that. It makes you feel good. It's true medicine. It's true medicine. Other ways is most of us, we're in boxes. And so even in our house, there's only so far before my eyes hit a wall. Driving in a car, driving in the street, there's only so far before your eyes hit a wall. But when you go out to nature and your eyes can see in a lot of distance, well, that's like an artist that wants to live in a big loft. So the more space they have, the more creativity they have. So again, all these subtle things happen. And there's a lot of studies being published about being even out in nature for 20 minutes, breathing deeper, changing your emotions, changing, your mentality. And so I encourage you guys all to go out in nature and drink tea. Take your tea out in nature with you if you haven't already. I have some other these really nice glass vessels, and then I'll make my tea. And so yes, of course, going out to nature, you're going to still take your tea and take a moment. All right. How are we doing? 5:06. Okay, perfect. So let's move. We'll take a brief pause, and I'm going to show you the other table over here and show you what's next on the list here. Is we went over the Gongfu Tea Ceremony, is what they call decoctions. So an infusion is when you pour hot water over something and you cover it and you let it just cool down. That's called an infusion. A decoction is when you put like things together in a pot and you bring it up to a boil and you continue to boil it for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 4 hours, or longer in some cases for mushrooms. Okay, so we understand the difference between an infusion and a decoction. So we're gonna move on to decoctions and extracts. Okay? Okay, so the next one, here we are in understanding and making decoctions. And this is what I used to do a lot, and I still love to do this, is actually to buy the raw herbs. And I'm going to make this, because I'm going to make this for me today and tomorrow, is we're going to take like the astragalus roots and we're going to put it in the pot here. We're going to take some of the jujube dates, goji berries, lotus seeds, all these wonderful like roots and berries and login fruits. Let me just get a handful so you can see what that looks like. It's wonderful. These are all tonic roots and barks and berries. I'm going to put that whole thing in there. And this is called the change of season tea. And so this is like a classic formula of these tonics that you take when the seasons change. Okay, after 30 years in the health food store, let me tell you, there's no such thing as cold and flu season. That's a myth. In fact, when it's winter time, normally there's less viruses in the air, okay? Because most viruses like heat. But really so there's just the same amount of viruses and bacteria in the year, pretty much year round. The only reason why people get it is because when the weather changes more than 20 degrees, when it goes from 80 to 100 or 60 to 40, that's when people get sick. I would always see that 2 or 3 days after the sudden changes in weather, that's when people would tend to flock into the health food stores to, they got a little runny nose and they're wearing down. I've seen it, so I know it's true. I don't need to see any studies. I've lived it, so I know it's true. And of course, in Qigong, they've always explained that the change is season. In tonic herbs, understand the change is season. If you take these certain tonics before the seasons change, well, when that climatic change happens, your body isn't taxed as hard. You have more, nutrients. You have more stamina, endurance, and so then you just don't get the common cold and flu like everyone else is. So that's what really happens. That's why people get it, is when the seasons changed. And then if you take into effect, like, not sleeping good, poor diet, lack of emotional stability, or, having people in your life that are supportive, encouraging, and positive. Harvard did a study, and out of everything that you can do, having people in your life that are positive and encouraging is 80% of longevity. Far out better for you than like diet, sleep, exercise, or anything else, is just having positive emotions and good people in your life. So remember that we're not social distancing, we're physically distancing, but we're socially staying connected to people. This is like an important concept. So as we make these changes season teas, then we just get this burst of nutrients right before the seasons change. So the real change of season is 18 days in between each season. There's a cycle that, my school follows the cycle of the lunar calendar. So if you live according to nature, everything that you do will be on a higher level. So in the springtime, like when the nature is growing right now, is a great time to start new projects and work on your flexibility. In the summertime, that's when you're physically your strongest. You should be working out the most, and that's when your physical body's at its peak. When fall time comes around, that's the time of the year to start harvesting and working on meditation. And winter time comes around, it's the time to conserve and write down your ideas and prepare for springtime again. So my school has been running for 5 years on this. And so all my classes and courses are designed to follow along the seasons. You want to start new things on full moons. You want to do big classes as close as you can to on a full moon, because all these are like seasonal and cycles that, we're not that far disconnected from nature like we think we are. So again, more you start to use these herbs and tonics, the more you start to fall into that kind of pattern. Okay? Now, there's 2 different ways to use them. One is just to basically, and the other one I'm not gonna make it, but I'm gonna make it for later, this is a heart formula. And this I'm just going to put right into the pot here. Okay, and so this has got like hawthorn berries and prunes and licorice root. And so it's very, and it smells really good once it gets going. It's for the heart. So with this type of decoction, all I would do is I would just pour hot water in here, put the lid on, very important for those essential oils we talked about earlier. I would bring this up to a boil, and then I would let it go down, and then I would just simmer this for about 30 minutes. And this would make like a real thick brew, because those roots and barks need to be extracted. They need to be, decocted. They need to be boiled and cooked for a while before their fibers can open up and their nutrients can come out. Okay, so that's why, to touch on the nutrients coming out. So, the disagreement with the raw food diet, or at least foods that are really good for you, is that the longer that something's in the ground, the harder cellulose wall it has. So if you eat something like a fruit raw or a flower raw, well, its cellulose wall is very easy to permeate and open up, and all the nutrients can come out. Well, the more you get into something that's grown longer, that cellulose wall gets tighter and tighter. So you can never take a root or a bark and eat it raw, because that cellulose wall is so tight that it would just pass through you. it's good fiber for your body and it's prebiotic, but at the same time, that's why you have to cook some of your foods in order to loosen our steams, to loosen up that cell wall so then the nutrients can come out. I mean, that's the greatest invention of all time, is to cook foods to make the nutrients more bioavailable. So I do believe in the raw food diet up to a certain degree in the spring and the summertime. But then, the original diet that I was taught through all this is called the Azoth diet, Azoth. And there's no question that the Azoth diet is different around the world, because you could only eat what was blooming. And if you didn't have a freezer, you can only eat green things when they're blooming in spring. You can only eat the fruit in the summertime. You can only eat the pumpkins and the melons in the fall time. And in the winter time is when you ate a little bit of meat and you ate the things that, some of that food that you prepared. Other than that, you ate with the seasons. So the seasonal diet will never change. There will never be a fad diet that will be better than the seasonal diet. Okay. You want to know usually what's in season? Well, not always, but if you go to like the smaller stores, you can just see what's out. What's out is more in abundant, is usually in season, but not always, because we import things from around the world now. But if you grow a garden in your backyard, the best foods for you is what's growing in the time of the year and the time of season that it's growing. Okay, so the first way is just to make the decoction. Okay, now the next way, which is really advanced, and it ties into that like raw food theory, is because you don't want to overcook things, this is what they call a double broiler. And so it's like a little vessel. And look, it has the foods we put in there, and it has not only one, but two lids, because I don't want any of the steam to get out of here. I want to capture all the steam, and that makes it like a real thick syrup. And then I'm going to put this in this bigger pot, and then I'm going to pour water. I guess I'm not going to do that right now. I would fill this up with water up to about right here. Put that in there, put my lids on there, and then I would fill this outer one up with water, and then I would bring this up to a boil. And as long as this outer side is boiling, this inner side never reaches full boiling point. So I can kind of maintain, like an old school way of maintaining the perfect temperature before things get overcooked. So it's called a double broiler. Maybe some of you guys are familiar with it in a different way, but in this way, with these little clay pots, it's normally referred to as a ginseng cooker. Now, when you cook something like this, I would need to cook this for like 4 hours. So I'd put the water in there, bring it up to a boil, and it would sound like that, which is like music to my ears, waiting for that, cooking all day on a Sunday. And then everything in here becomes really soft, and so you can eat these roots and barks. They just almost like melt. They're so good for you. Good for, like my dog, my cat has always been lucky to, get these. And, my little boy, he eats these and he loves these. And so these are super good for you, and they make you feel really good. And again, the tonics, another thing that I didn't add earlier, I just thought of, is a lot of times the tonic roots and barks and berries, forget organic, they're still growing up in the mountains. And so they're wildcrafted. The soil has never been sprayed. In fact, they've only been picked one time, and that bush has been growing there forever, or that ginseng has been growing in there forever. Oh, okay, in the forms of the cool. Okay, cool. I'm trying to read some of your guys' comments if I can. So this is the ultimate way to make the decoctions, is in this double broiler or ginseng cooker pot. Okay. And then another way is to take that that same package that changes season, and I have it here. I rarely drink. I made this January 20th, and so this is basically that changes season mixed in with blackberry brandy. So this has been curing for a while now, and the alcohol has extracted all the nutrients. So normally when we graduate a class, hopefully we'll be back in a few weeks, when we graduate classes, then, I share this with everyone, and we take one shot, and then, after one shot, I start busting rhymes, and, it's all over after that. But this is another way to make it, is in the alcohol. That's what I should have done. I should have sipped a few of these before I started this class. I'd have been like, I'm just playing. Okay, and then another one that I use a lot now at my house is, I'm going to slide this over a little bit, is, you know, they sell these things, and we're going to start selling these too. And these are like these electric pots. And so you can add all your nutrients in there, and then you can control the functioning, and you can heat it up, and you can, you know, let it hold warm for a while. And so you can use something like that. But, you know, this is like, you can use it right now if you know, buy them from us, or if you want to learn about making those and go to Chinatown, I can, you know, tell you which ones to get to start with. If you want to take that to the next level, you can use, you know, like the double broiler, and, you know, it's an all-day event. You know, you got to cook it for 4 hours in some cases, and you would pour that off, and then you would cook it for 8 hours. And then you would put those two together and make a double decoction, and that's like a super nutrient dense liquid food that you could like fast on, or you can just, you know, add a cup to your you know, in between meals, and it's just going to give you a lot of rich iron and alkaloids and properties and minerals, and it's going to make you feel amazing. And since I mentioned iron, a lot of these, you know, I have to say that, you know, the tonic teas are good for everyone, but they're definitely a little bit better for women. And the reason why I say that, because in Chinese medicine, they say women are governed by the blood, and women need more iron and they need more nutrients because, you know, the cycle and giving birth and these things. So when women get on these products, the yin replenisher, and get on some of these tonics and the gojis and the, you know, the schizandra berries, then they actually can probably feel a difference faster, because they tend to be more deficient in those type of nutrients because of what I just said. Okay. And so however you like to prepare these, you know, there's a way to prepare those. Okay, and then before we go on and kind of come over to the last part, just a little bit, another way to kind of make some of these are not edible, but I make these because these go along with what I learned from Grandmaster Ball, and I learned how to take some of these tonic formulas and make them into what they call Dit Da Jiao. And Dit Da Jiao is healing balms. And so these were made in order to train. We have a thing starting, it was going to normally start right in May, but I'll probably push it back to the middle of May. It's an iron body training. You train for 108 days, and you do isometrics, and you hit your body, and you do meditations. And my teacher, when I first learned it, said in 108 days, it's like equivalent to 10 years of meditation. So it takes a lot of discipline. You have to do it every day for 108 days, but you become incredibly strong. And then this formula is this Dit Da Jiao. It translates to bone bruise medicine. You apply this on your body. So you apply this to your joints, or you apply it to your body if you get bruises from, you know, going through the training. So I always say, if it's good enough for iron body training, it's probably good enough for anything that you might be doing. So if you're using your legs, or you got sore knees or sore ankles, or you got tennis elbow or carpal tunnel, or you got a shoulder, and you've tried all these different creams, you've tried CBD, there's still nothing better that you can get than this. I mean, this is a 400, this one here is a particular 400-year-old formula. This one particularly cured for 1 year, from 119 to 120, so it cures for a year. And the alcohol extracts all these nutrients out of here. So when you apply this to your body, it's literally like food for your tendons and ligaments. It's food for your cardiovascular and your blood vessels and your fascia and all these things that are in your body. It's literally food for those joints. It's not masking the pain, or it's not icy hot that feels good but doesn't really do anything. This is real, you know, balms that the Shaolin warriors used. And when I went through my training, I had to train for 10 years before my teacher said he authorized me to teach the iron body training. And unfortunately, he passed away last year, and there's probably less than 5 people in North America that can teach the whole system. And then so this goes with that. So we do sell this at the store, but I just wanted to, you know, tell you that there's not only the foods to ingest, but you make these foods for your topical, for your body too, and your body can absorb it through the skin and through the joints. So it's another really cool level. Okay. All right, so we'll take a brief intermission again. Grab your teacup, fill up if you need to, because then we're going to come back for the ultimate teas. Let me take a moment, see if I can read some comments. I don't know what to do with these mini drops. Okay. What is the name of this tonic? I'll go back through everything. Okay, so when I get done with this presentation, I'll come around and I'll scroll through the comments, and you guys can just open the mic and you can raise your hand and we can go through questions. That way I can hit all those questions, or I see there's quite a few questions. And I'll go back and I'll name what the products are and different things like that, okay? Cool. Okay, so now kind of comes, I don't got time to do all that, all the time. I like to be funny if I can't. So how can we modernize this and again, make it beautiful, make it easy, make it, cool and hip and all that stuff. So it's something that we want to do, because it's like all things, whether it's, working out or taking the tonics or using essential oils, they all need compliance. They only work if you do them. And they work better if you stay consistently and do them all the time, right? So essential oils are great. The thieves on the bottom of your foot, you use it every day. But, if you get something and then you're trying to play catch up, it's not as beneficial. Same with the tonics. That's why they're superior. If you take them all the time, you're less likely to go down in these waves, or if, not saying that nothing never happens to you, but if something does happen to you, you get over it a little bit quicker, right? If you got the cold or the flu, would you want to get over it a day sooner? Would that be worth it? Of course it would, and then, most people have, let's just say, a certain amount of years. You start taking these, would you take a few extra days of life, or would you take another year of life where you actually have mobility and being able to enjoy life before your body, is breaking down and you can't move? Of course we would. So it's a kind of way to see these. Is it going to make you live forever? No. Could it add some years to your life? Yes. Could it add some daily more virtues in your life? Yes, of course. So in medical Qigong, we say there's 3 levels of medicine. The highest level of medicine is to help someone find their life purpose. That's the highest form of medicine. The second form of medicine is to help someone live every day a little bit more virtuous, a little bit more content. And the third level of medicine is to treat physical disease, right? And, when you hear this, but does this make sense? Yeah, it does, because if you have little general aches and pains, but you're living your life's purpose, those little aches and pains go away. I have 0 pains when I'm teaching and I'm in the zone. I have 0 pains, right? What about, you can have different aches and pains, we all do as we get older, of course, but you can live a little bit more virtuous. So your view of those pains aren't as negative, or might not affect you as emotionally or physically, or you might not then be meaner to other people because you have pain. One of the very first lessons that I learned from the gentleman that I first started working for, Wayne Rudolph, he wasn't a spiritual guy, but he taught me one of the most important lessons that I think I've ever learned through this whole journey. Is just, I remember there used to be these little grouchy people and these mean people that would come into the health food store. And so I'd, duck out and I'd be like, I got to go to the bathroom. I try to get away from those people. And so did, the other employees. Of course, we try to get away from those people. And then one day Wayne said, well, the people that are grouchy and that are mean and are angry, those are the people that are in pain. And it was like, pow, it was like this light bulb. It went off in my head. So then I was like, I got it. So I got it. That makes sense. All I need to hear that one time. I've never forgot it. And so then the people that were angry and grouchy and mean, those were the people that I wanted to go to first. Those were the people that I wanted to help. And so I gave them extra space. I gave them extra time. I gave them everything that they needed. in order, because I knew that that's the reason why they're acting that way. And then later, as the years went on, those people became like my best clients. Those are the people that, like, well, you're the only one that, listens to me, or you're the only one that understands me, or, you're the only one that's helped me, because everyone else is just looking at you through your anger and not looking at you that you've had some pain. So these are some like important lessons that I've got over the years, or I've learned to, bring together. Okay, so let's go into the tonics. Let me take this a little bit more this way, and let's see if I can reach down a little bit more. Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna have to duck here and be in here for a minute. So what we want to start with in order to make these ultimate elixirs, and I'm going to make one too because I'm going to drink on this thing the rest of the night, is we want to start with a tea bag. Oh, I already got one ready. It's like, why is that so hard? Okay, so you're going to start with your tea bag, and I already primed it with some goji berries. So I got some goji berries. I'm going to start with my tea bag. Some of you guys got your kits out there. So if you haven't already, you can make it now, or you can just see how I do it. And then I'm going to add my tea bag. And with this one, if you have the desktop botanical, it wraps really cool right around there so it doesn't catch on fire or anything like that. Okay, so you can wrap it a few times there, and it'll just be balancing like that for you. Okay, so let me start to move some stuff a little bit so we can get right up in here. I'll go over some of these different tonics. And I'll bring this forward a little bit so you can see how beautiful this is going to look when we're done. Okay, so we want to start with our tea bag and some gojis, and then I'm going to add some different fruits here. I'm going to add some, I like the bitterness and the sourness of Schizandra, and I'm going to add some raspberries, some dehydrated raspberries in there. You can see it's already looking good. And I'm going to add a few of the login fruits. Now, of course, I understand you guys all don't, have your own store, and so you don't have to make them this elaborate. But if you look at it like you're making a meal, then you're getting a lot of value of making this like a meal, okay? And let's see, what else we're going to add? Well, we'll just go with that. So we'll go with, a couple of these extracts here to start. Let me see if I can adjust this just a little bit and bring this right there so you can just see it. And then we want to go through, we want to add some of these liquid extracts. Now, I won't go through all of them, but I'll show you a few. The chi drops is really cool because this is going to move the energy and improve the flexibility in the muscles. So I might just add a squirt of that in there. Let's see, the yin replenisher. Now this one's a classical one, very good for women. It's usually one of the main ones I recommend for it because it's kidneys and it's got a lot of organic compounds in there. But one of the most famous ones here is this goji Schizandra. Some of you guys got that out there. Now they say if you take gojis and Schizandra, every empress ever in China took this every day. So I would say if you want to be the empress, you take this every day, they say for 100 days, and your skin will glow, your eyes will radiate, and your spirit will shine. So it's got, the goji and Schizandra. So the goji is semi-sweet, and the Schizandra has got the sour and bitter flavors in there. And so you're going to add some of that in here. And then just depending on which ones you like, let's see, a couple of my favorites would be the wild reishi. This one's really good. And again, remember the reishis are only been available for us for, not too long. And so 50 years ago, you couldn't even get these. And let's see what else, one that I really like. And because I have it, add some of these ginseng drops. They're really good ginseng drops, just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to add some of our tonics, and then, they make some of these other different types of tea, these E-teas. These are cool because these are like powdered tonics. So they have all the properties of the extracts, but they're made into, you can add it right to cold water if you want to use like the e-teas for some of these different formulas. And then again, one of my favorite, of course, is the red roses. And so I'm just going to add some of those, a handful of those in there. And there we go. Water. And so with these, what I would suggest starting now, 135 seems to be like the perfect temperature where it's warm, but it's not too warm to burn your tongue. It might be a little different for you. Between 125 and 135, I found if you have a pot that measures the temperature to be like perfect, you know, for sipping. But I'm going to bring this up a little bit. But you might initially need to hit it with about 160 just to let that hot water like kind of coalesce and mix all the ingredients together. The cool thing though is every time you make a little bit different formula, the ingredients mesh together and create new compounds that are not there individually. So the more variety that you're always using all the time is the more variety that you make even newer compounds that never even been made in nature before. You're the first person on the earth to make this combo and get these certain compounds into your body. So once you make the tonic elixirs, then you're creating, you know, something that's greater than the individual plants alone can do. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to pour it. And then I'm just going to pour that over that. And I'm going to come around. And you have your little tea light. I'm going to put that in there. And this whole little kit is called the Desktop Botanical. And so I just wish that I could just show you that without pouring it on the computer, how beautiful, you know, these look in person. And, you know, now some of the flowers are bitter, so lavender is nice, but sometimes I'll just put a little bit of flower, you know, just a little bit on there. Not too much because it can become bitter after extracts, and a little bit of jasmine flowers. So you have all your different flowers and different ingredients there. And again, you can kind of see that. You can kind of see what it looks like, but that's not doing any justice there of how beautiful and cool this looks. And then if you do need it to be sweet, you know, if that's going to be important, then the cool thing about the sweet fruit drops, normally I have a segment I do just on this because the sweet fruit drops are a tonic within themselves. This is called monk fruit if you're not familiar with it. And so these are actually a tonic for your lungs. They're very good by itself. So you can actually just make this, or if you have kids, you can squeeze lemons and you can add like one little dropper full of this, makes a perfect lemonade. And it's a tonic for you. So, you know, I've been through all the sugars. I've been through agave and honey and, you know, all the different types of sugars, stevia, but there's nothing better than sweet fruit drops. Not for only blood sugar, but again, it's a tonic by itself. So I'll just, you know, because I want it to be nice and sweet looking and sweet tasting for you guys. So I add some of those in there. And then some of the other really cool ones that we sell, this one needs to be refrigerated, but like this is rose and hibiscus. And so this is actually really bright red. And you can add this to like different things that you eat, but it's also beautiful to add into these teas, and it'll give it like a really nice red color. I'm just going to pour some in there. And so again, these rose and hibiscus ones in there. So this one has the different ones. Not going to be, oh, and lion's mane. This is another one of my favorite ones. So I'm just going to go ahead and, since this is just for me, I'm going to add a couple squirts of that in there. Okay. And then I just like to stir it just a little bit. And then I have my tea light. And it's good right now to go. But the longer this cooks, the better this will actually become. And so we even sell these beautiful little cups. And so then, eventually you have this beautiful, super rich, nutrient dense, beautiful superfood. So I'm going to cheer you guys again. Let's taste this. Yeah. So good, so good. Yay. All right, so let's just take a moment, take a few sips, and then I'll come around again. I'll look through your guys' questions. I'll see how we're doing on time. Perfect amount of time, so. And this will just get better and better as it cooks throughout the evening. And so, when we went and trained with Ron, he did say it. He's like, this is the best high-tech, low-tech machine that you can get. You can even buy, we sell the nice tea lights, that are like made from coconut and they're almost smokeless, or they are smokeless for the most part. Or you can just use tea lights, that you buy at the dollar store. But, those do have a little bit of chemicals in them. But again, for a lot of people are at home now. And so you get this, and a couple ways to look at this and a couple ways to summarize it. Of course, it's another additional cost that you need to add, but if you could work a little bit longer and have a little bit endurance and stamina, you can work an extra hour, then you can pay for that and you can pay for more things. I'm sure we all have projects that we want to complete. You start drinking these teas, next thing you know, you start doing more things. You stay up, maybe it's only a little bit later initially, but later you stay up later and you wake up earlier and you wake up refreshed. Or you have guests that come over. This is something that's really beautiful. You guys can learn this for yourself and host your own beautiful tea parties and have these and have people that will come to them. I mean, this is a really beautiful thing that you can do. And again, my whole story of, being in the health industry and selling vitamins and then selling herbs and then selling all these different things to finally come to this full circle where, well, this is the best thing that you can possibly take. This is more nutrient dense than foods that you can buy at the grocery store. And this makes you feel good right when I'm drinking it. I'm feeling good. So I'm feeling good. And then I'm going to feel good later tomorrow. And I'm going to boost my immune system up. I'm going to take care of my health. And so all this compounds to, being well worth the investment that you put into it. So one more, or second to last cheers. Okay. Oh yeah, just getting good now. Usually the first one, will get kind of good, but don't pour it all out. Instead, get down to a little bit and then add some more water in it, because that way you kind of just keep, having the right temperature and it doesn't get too hot. But the tea light seemed to even if you let it for an hour, it would get hot, of course, but it wouldn't get too hot. So I found another little secret is just to, if you have a teacup and it's been sitting for a while, then fill it halfway full. Because for me, at least, then sometimes I get working again and then I forget, that it's there. And so then when I come back with the hot water and I add to my cup that's been sitting there, it's perfect temperature. Or if you just have a chance to come back to it and it's only halfway full, it'll cool down much faster. So just little tricks of the trade. And all right. That's really good. Okay, let me just start. Let me go all the way back. All right. Super cool golden dragon shirt. Thank you. Purple dragon. Okay. All right. Some of you guys got the cups. Good, good, good. Trying to get Eliza, Katrina on the Zoom. Okay. The tea ceremonies are amazing. Yes, they are amazing. They're fun to do. They really are. Um, love the idea of the tea pet. What is the origin of the tea pet? Okay, I went over that. The dragon. How many of you got a tea kit? I know a few of you guys did. And the tea kits I still have available. If you come by the store, I'll post some new pictures because I'm making these tea kits. And what I'm putting in, the newer ones that I'm making, is I'm putting in the candle and I'm putting in the incense. So kind of it's like this whole romantic evening, or this whole little personal ceremony for yourself. So you light the candle, you light your incense like we did, and you pour your tea, and you just you take a moment for your well-being and your health. Okay, you got one. Oh, cool. Okay, I got the Radiant package. All right, where do you get the ginseng cooker? Oh, where do you get the ginseng cooker? Is if you live in Vegas, it's at the 99 Ranch store. Not the 99-cent store, but the 99 Ranch store in Chinatown. They have them. Are also the place called T&T Ginseng. T&T Ginseng. And yeah, if you forget or whatever, you can come by the store. I have their cards there at the store, or you can always call, or you can always send me an email, or if you got my number, text, Facebook, message me. Got the Radiant Health package. Wow, a lot of you guys got the package. That's really cool. Aiming, ginseng cooker, also the clay teacup. The clay teacup, we sell those ones at my store. That that Black Dragon clay, I sell that. Have a couple of teacups there. Please cover how to use the little bottles of the drops. Oh yeah, so we did. That was at the end, so that I'm just starting at the back. Do you sell the bone bruise medicine? Yes, we do. It's $29, and it gets a bottle. Again, you can't buy it anywhere else in the world. It's the one of a kind that you can only get. And I'll be adding that to the website too, so you can order it online. I did just put a new store online, so it's at naturallyorganiccenter.com. And I have like the top 40 things I put on there. So a lot of these things I put on there. So if you want to get some stuff and deliver it, put it together, I throw in a bunch of free samples, especially right now. So if anyone ordering tea stuff, I'll put in the blue tea. I'll put in the hibiscus. I'll put in the spring dragon samples, the tonic alchemy. I put all kinds of little free bracelets and stickers and all kinds of stuff in your packages. Put them under my tongue. Yeah, you can't put them under your tongue, but there is some people that will say even these alcohol extracts, you don't really taste the alcohol, but some people might say that it damaged the receptor sites. So, you put like homeopathic medicine and different things under your tongue, but these ones you don't need to necessarily put under your tongue. And not Ron Teagarden, but one of his people that was really, if you're older or you have a sensitive mouth or you're prone to any acidic ulcers or anything like that, then, don't put it under your tongue. It's not necessary. It's real food. You want to just kind of chew it up and basically. Harry got the Shanghai Lady. Great for us girls. Yes, that one's a good one. That's in my kit. Kathy Kim. What is it good for? The Shanghai Lady is to be the Shanghai Lady. The Shanghai Lady is more like like a kind of a depiction of like the goddess. And so, they were sometimes trained assassins. And so these were like really like tough women. They were really tough. That's kind of the Shanghai Lady, is they were like almost like gangsters back in the day. So they would carry knives and fans, and they knew all the tonics, and they carried swords. They were like the badasses basically. That's what that really. So as you get more nutrients for your liver and your kidneys, then you become a Shanghai Lady, and you get more goji berries and Shazandra, you become the Empress. And these things become true not only physically, but again, like I mentioned through the seminar, emotionally and spiritually. Okay, so you guys are like communicating with yourself. That's cool. We're just getting used to doing this Zoom. Siri editing, okay. Well, dang, Purple Dragon, okay. It's Purple Dragon doing some work over here on the chat room. Thank you, Chimama. We have an iron pot with tea light. Yeah, that's cool, the iron pot. The iron pots are like used, I have a really cool one. Like these ones are cool. I have some really nice ones like throughout my house, teapots. I really like them. But what I found with these is you can't see the tea. And so these are great for, normally the iron pots were used to like cast iron skillets. You would use one flavor in like a one thing and you'd only use it for that. So if you had a dragon well pot, like I have a dragon well one, I've only brewed dragon well in it. So I don't want any other flavor to be in there. But these are old school now. They're still good. I'm not saying they aren't. They hold heat longer. But I mean, when you're doing these and you can see, compared, you can't see what's in there, then the glass ones have just kind of become superior, at least in my understanding now or my usage. But still cool. I have a few. Sometimes, I have like the Shogun one, so I'll make like some green tea and some Shogun style, and I'll just be my theme. Can you customize a tea kit? Yes, of course. I can put you tell me how you want to feel, or you say you want one more physical, just give me any kind of clues and I will put together a package for you. Send me a Facebook message or email and just tell me, how much you want to spend generally. And, I'll put together, and again, for anyone that's coming from the event, and I know some of you guys paid for it before I made it free. And if you did pay for it, when you order, you'll get a free box of tea and I'll take care of you. Yeah, the iron does work well with herbal, but not as much because the iron can really change them. And again, you can't see it. How do you spell Shazandra? That's pretty good. That'll work. How you spelled it there. To clarify, I use the balance and energy drops under my tongue. Okay. Between the Empress and the Shanghai Lady. Well, what is the difference? Well, the Empress is the Empress. She's the royal queen. The Shanghai Lady, or it could be like her, like her guards. Or again, but the Shanghai ladies were kind of more like the Xena warrior princesses of the time, if that makes sense. They were like they're, probably anti-government, maybe even, they're like renegades, gangsters of their time. Yeah, naturallyorganiccenter.com is the website. So I think that's all the messages. Yeah, so. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was, yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you guys got to join. And then I got some good ideas of how to make this better for next time. I'll probably change up my scene a little bit where I can really get closes and make it more visual. And then just, probably have someone help me so we can, go through the chats. Thank you, Chi Mama. You're always helpful. You always help before I even ask you. True inner circle leadership. Yeah, all you guys are on the email, so I will send a follow-up, and I'm trying to, so I have you guys, I don't know what it is, but sometimes when I put people in the contact list, some emails don't seem to go through, but I try to answer everyone's, that didn't get the email initially, and, so I don't know about Facebook for the last 2 hours, so I imagine, I'm not sure how many people we had at one time, but I had about 35 people sign up, and I don't think we had that many on, so. It's free. Maybe they didn't feel like it, but I'll try to improve a little bit of the communication and have someone, helping me. And so we can go through it, and then we can switch to like a phone, so you can come in and really do the Zoom up. So this looks like the future, regardless of doing these events. So just a lot of awesomeness out there, a lot of thank yous. I thank you guys for being on here. It was wonderful. Really enjoyed it. So yes, I missed the first 30 minutes, but I did record it. And so once I put this all together, you'll get the follow-up email. No promises tonight, but by the end of tomorrow night, you'll get that. It'll have the link so you can go back and rewatch. It'll have a link to the store and maybe a link to our next event and different things on there I'm trying to get better with. So. Yay, are we feeling good? One last tea sip together. So this is the final one. Yay.